we're continuing on this story of Vamanadev and Bali Maharaj. So where we are right now is that Vamadev has asked Bali Maharaj for 3 steps of land. When Bali Maharaj asked Vamanadev, "What can I give you? You're coming to my sacrificial arena here," and he wanted to give something. So he said, "I would like 3 steps of land." And as we know, Bali Maharaj's guru Shukracharya told Bali Maharaj, "Don't give him 3 steps of land. This is Vishnu. He's going to cheat you. He's going to take everything away from you." And Bali Maharaj didn't listen to his guru and said, "I will give you 3 steps of land." So Vamanadev took his first step and covered the entire universes. His second step, I believe it was the upper universe planetary systems, and he didn't have anywhere to put his third step. So basically, Bali Maharaj was not able to fulfill his promise to Vamadev for his third step. So therefore, Vamanadev called for his arrest, basically, and his humiliation in some sort of way. You could say it was like that. So the demons who were with Bali Maharaj, who were his armies and his people, his demons, they were very angry, so they attacked the Lord, and they were defeated ultimately. And then Garuda, the carrier of the Lord, he arrested Bali Maharaj. And then the story goes on that he was able to give his third step on his head. He said, "Put it on my head, the third step." And then he was rewarded beyond things were taken away from him, but also he was rewarded with his being able to live in the lower planetary systems. And his grandfather, who is Prahlad Maharaj, also came. This was after he was arrested. Prahlad Maharaj came, his wife came and asked for his release. So anyway, this purport is talking about the qualities of Bali Maharaj. The quality that he has is that even though things were taken away from him, he was never discouraged by that. He didn't say, "Oh, this brahmachari, this Vamanadev has taken everything away from me. I'm going to, I lost faith in him," or anything like that. No, the illustration here is of a devotee. Even if a devotee gets everything taken away by the Lord, still he continues. He's very resolute in his purpose. And Srila Prabhupada's talking about the sthita pragya in this verse, in this purport. So it's described in the Bhagavad Gita about the sthita pragya. Let's look at the Bhagavad Gita. This is chapter 2, text 54, where Arjuna first asks about this sthita pragya. So he says, so this is 254 of the Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna said, "O Krishna, what are the symptoms of one whose consciousness is thus merged in transcendence? How does he speak, and what is his language? How does he sit, and how does he walk?" So basically, he's asking, what does this person look like? What does this person act like? How does he respond to things? Then Krishna answers Arjuna of what the sthita pragya, or the person fixed in Krishna consciousness. That's Prabhupada's translation. Sthita pragya se, of one who is situated in fixed Krishna consciousness. Sthita means fixed. One who's fixed in Krishna consciousness. This is what he looks like. So the first question, how is he transcendentally situated, is answered in the 55th verse of the second chapter. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "O Partha, when a man gives up all varieties of desires for sense gratification, which arise from mental concoction, and when his mind, thus purified, finds satisfaction in the self alone, then he is said to be in pure transcendental consciousness." So that's underlined here. I'm underlining here, finds satisfaction in the self alone. This is how he is situated. a person who is not disturbed by the incoming desires, the unlimited flow of desires, but who stays still, he is someone who is considered, peaceful in Krishna consciousness. So that means many desires may come to us, many situations may come to us. We may be put into difficult situations, but if we are staying properly situated in our minds and we're not disturbed by that, then we're considered fixed. Then the next verse is, how does he speak? So the notes I have here is, how are his intelligence and words affected by another's affection, anger, or neutrality? Basically, how does he respond? This is text 56, one who is not disturbed in mind, even amid the threefold miseries, or elated when there is happiness, and who is free from attachment, fear, and anger, is called a sage of a steady mind. Stita dhira munir uchate. That's a very famous line of this verse. So the mind can be agitated in so many ways. It can be agitated by happiness and by distress. By happiness, if one becomes too elated by something, let's say if something happens to you and you feel increasingly happy, that's a disturbance of the mind. Or if something is distressing you, that is also a disturbance of the mind. Let's look at the purport of this 56th text. The word, Srila Prabhupada is talking about the word muni. So the word muni means one who can agitate his mind in various ways for mental speculation without coming to a factual conclusion. It is said that every muni has a different angle of vision. Unless a muni differs from another muni, he cannot be called a muni in the strict sense of the term. Okay, he's just talking about mundane, definition. Okay, then he talks, but a stita dhir muni, as mentioned herein by the Lord, is different from ordinary muni. A stita dhir muni is always in Krishna consciousness, for he has exhausted all his business of creative speculation. He is called prashanta nishesha manoratantara, or one who has surpassed the stage of mental speculation, has come to the conclusion that Sri Krishna or Vasudev is everything. Vasudeva sarvam iti sa mahatma sudurlabha. He is called a muni fixed in mind. Okay, now here's the important part. Such a fully Krishna conscious person is not at all disturbed by the onslaught of the threefold miseries, for he accepts all miseries as the mercy of the Lord. That sounds familiar. Bali Maharaj, thinking himself only worthy of more trouble due to his past misdeeds, and he sees that his miseries, by the grace of the Lord, are minimized to the lowest. Similarly, when he is happy, he gives credit to the Lord, thinking himself unworthy of the happiness. So this is exactly what Bali Maharaj is going through. He is not disturbed by the onslaught of the threefold miseries, for he accepts all miseries as the mercy of the Lord. This being arrested by Garuda and being basically humiliated, Bali Maharaj is taking that as the mercy of the Lord, because he is a Stita Pragya. And he sees his mercy as a minimized to the lowest. I mean, we know that story that one king had cut his finger, and his minister said, "This might be for your benefit. You had you had some kind of something coming to you, and you're now your suffering has been lowered or something like that." And so the king went out to go for hunting or something, and he got captured by some dacoits who were going to sacrifice him. I'm not sure if this is just how the story goes. Anyway, this is my memory. So he goes and he gets captured, but then they see that his finger is cut, so they're not able to sacrifice him, because they want someone who's fully, who doesn't have his finger cut or something. And then he goes back to the minister and says, "You're right. This is like, this was the mercy of the Lord," or something. Maybe that's not how the story goes. We can talk about it afterward. But basically, even I remember as a kid, if something happened to me, my parents would say, this is big, this was actually something worse was meant to happen, but because you're you're a devotee, then this is the mercy of the Lord that your suffering was minimized. So it says here that's the miseries that we have, they're minimized to the lowest. And also, when he gets happiness, this person, this Titadir Muni, when he becomes happy, he thinks that I'm not worthy of this happiness because it's due to the Lord's grace that I'm put into this comfortable condition or situation. Okay, then the next verse, how he doesn't speak. The Arjuna was asking, okay, how does he speak? How does he sit? And all those things. How he doesn't speak. In the material world, one who's unaffected by whatever good or evil he may obtain, neither praising it nor despising it, is firmly fixed in perfect knowledge. He doesn't complain. He doesn't complain. He doesn't praise it nor despise it. So this is how he doesn't speak. He doesn't speak complaints. The purport, there's always some upheaval in the material world which may be good or evil. One who is not agitated by such material upheavals, who is unaffected by good or evil, is to be understood to be fixed in Krishna consciousness. I mean, we can really relate to this because of our condition in the past 1 year. So many things to complain about. The COVID and this and that, all these things. I mean, they're all miserable conditions, and we shouldn't look down on people who are affected by it and all that. But it says here that we should be unaffected by not that we should strive for this, but the Muni, the one who is stita pragya, they are not affected by this. This is something we should strive for. Because in this mature world, there's always going to be ups and downs. And this is a place of misery. So as long as we understand that, until we understand that, we will always be thinking, there's ups and downs, but this is just the nature of the mature world. As long as one is in the mature world, there is always the possibility of good and evil because the world is full of duality. Duality, good, bad, always is going up and down. So this is how he doesn't speak. Now the next verse is very nice. It talks about the tortoise. One who is able to withdraw his senses from sense objects as the tortoise draws his limbs within the shell is firmly fixed in perfect consciousness. Now he's talking about the senses. How does he use his senses, this person? The test of the yogi or devotee or self-realized soul is that he's able to control the senses according to his plan. Most people are servants of the senses and are thus directed by the dictation of the senses. That is the answer to the question as how the yogi is situated. The senses are compared to venomous serpents. They act very loosely and without restriction. The yogi must be very strong in control of the serpents, like a snake charmer, and never allow them to act independently. So the senses must always be restrained from their sense objects, but not artificially. We can't artificially do that. We have to get a higher taste. That verse comes later on, that when one has a higher taste, then these senses are automatically restrained. So the best example here is of the tortoise. The tortoise can at any moment wind up his senses and exhibit them again at any time for a particular purpose. Similarly, the senses of the Krishna conscious persons are used only for some particular purpose in the service of the Lord and are withdrawn otherwise. Atashi Krishna namadi nambhavet garyamindriya sevan mukha hijivado swayam eva spratida. The material senses cannot approach Krishna. These material senses, blunt material senses, but when the senses are spiritualized through Krishna consciousness, when the tongue is spiritualized by chanting the holy name, by taking the Krishna prasadam, then only can we approach the senses be able to relish the Lord or be able to have revelation of the Lord. So this is a wonderful analogy. Keeping the senses always in the service of the Lord is the example set by the analogy of the tortoise who keeps the senses within. Again, this is the Sthita Pragya who is and tying it back to for our first verse. This is how a devotee is acting. This is how Bali Maharaj is acting. Okay, that's it from the Bhagavad Gita. Let's look at the rest of the purport. So he says, this is the special mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead towards his devotees. The Lord says, Yasyaham anugrahnami hariseta danam shnai. Let's look at this verse. This verse is quoted many times by Srila Prabhupada. This is a very mysterious verse. I find it mysterious because it's a scary verse, first of all. It says the Lord, when he brings his special favor on someone, he takes away everything. Hari means one who takes away. Hari, that means one who takes away. So in this case, the Lord has taken away all of Bali Maharaj's possessions. We see this in various examples in the Srimad Bhagavatam of the Lord of the Lord favoring the devotee and taking away his possessions. But we have to understand a few points. Is that the Lord does this to put the devotee back on the right path if the devotee is veering off the path. In our case, he will not give us all material opulences and see our Krishna consciousness go off the path or down the drain, perhaps, because that can easily happen. We see that when a person is too materially prosperous, then the Krishna consciousness or the God consciousness goes in the back seat. It's like a natural thing when we become happy, when we're sad. Oh, the church is full. We are all about Krishna. Please help me. And then when things are going well, Krishna, we don't ever think of Krishna. Did we think of Krishna after we prayed to him, and when things got a lot better quickly, did we think, oh, Krishna, thank you so much? No, we're so much like totally mesmerized by our situation of happiness that we forget that we even prayed to Krishna that help me out of this. So let's look at this verse. It's actually a verse from the 10th canto, but let's look where Srila Prabhupada quotes it. So in Canto 4, Chapter 22, Text 36, in the story of Prithu Maharaj meeting with the four Kumaras, Srila Prabhupada talks about it in the purport here. This is a really nice excerpt that I'll read. It is said by the Lord, Yasyaham anugrahnami hariseta danam shanai. The Lord told Yudhishthira Maharaj that his special favor is shown to his devotee when he takes away all the devotee's material opulences. Generally, therefore, it is experienced that Vaishnavas are not very opulent in the material sense. When a Vaishnava, a pure devotee, tries to be materially opulent and at the same time desires to serve the Supreme Lord, his devotional service is checked. That's what I just mentioned. The Lord, in order to show him special favor, destroys his so-called economic development and material opulences. Thus, the devotee, being frustrated in his repeated attempts at economic development, ultimately takes solid shelter under the lotus feet of the Lord. I mean, this is like my life's example. I mean, I've been trying to. This is like kind of personal, but I'll just share because you're all my friends. I've been trying to. I'm a grahasta. I have a growing family. I'm trying to make more money somehow. And I have a 9-to-5 job, but like I'm being constantly frustrated in my attempts to become more materially opulent. This is just my own experience, but when I hear Srila Prabhupada say this, I feel like, yeah, this is so true. Let's look at another verse. This is from Canto 5, Text 14, Chapter 10. The material world as a great forest of enjoyment. This is a great chapter. So let's look at the translation. The conditioned soul sometimes personally appreciates the futility of sense enjoyment in the material world, and he sometimes considers material enjoyment to be full of miseries. However, due to strong bodily conception, his memory is destroyed, and then again, he runs after material enjoyment, just as an animal runs after a mirage in a desert. So sometimes we can be on the side of, okay, this material world is full of this sense enjoyment, and it's futile, and I'm not about it. But sometimes we can forget that because of our bodily concept, and we run after that sense enjoyment like a animal runs after a mirage in a desert. If you look at, in a desert area, we don't have anyone near here, but if you look there in the desert, there is a mirage, and a mirage looks like water, and the animal goes there and runs after it. And when he gets there, he finds there's nothing there of enjoyment or water. So let's look at the purport where Srila Prabhupada quotes this verse, Yasyaham Anugranami. I stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, that's the verse. Lord Krishna says he takes everything away from the devotee whom he especially favors when the devotee is overly attached to material possessions. So when he is overly attached, to calibrate the devotee's life, the Lord brings him back and takes away. When everything is taken away, the devotee feels helpless and frustrated in society, friendship, and love. He feels that his family does not care for him any longer, and therefore completely surrenders onto the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. This is a special favor granted by the Lord to a devotee who cannot fully surrender to the Lord due to strong bodily conception. So if one is not able to surrender, and in his mind he wants to surrender to Krishna, the Lord makes this arrangement that he is able to surrender. When I read this, I think, okay, Krishna, I'm going to surrender. Don't take away anything right now. I'm going to try to surrender on my own. You don't have to help me. So let's read it further. As explained in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Ami Vigya Emurka Vishaya Kanadiba. The Lord understands the devotee who hesitates to engage in the Lord's service, not knowing whether he should again try to revive his material life. So if there's some hesitation in engaging in the Lord's service, then the Lord helps that person. After repeated attempts and failures, he fully surrenders to the lotus feet of the Lord. The Lord then gives him directions, and attaining happiness, he forgets all material engagement. Okay, so another point I'd like to make is that when the fear that I have of the Lord taking away everything may mean that when he does take away everything, I will be left with nothing. That's the fear, right? When things are taken away, we feel we'll be left with nothing. But this is not the case. I'm preaching to myself here. This is not the case. When we surrender to the Lord, when the Lord takes away everything, whether it's our false ego, whether it's our material possessions, we will not be the losers. We will not be the losers. Bali Maharaj was not the loser when he was humiliated, when things were taken away from him, his kingdom, everything was taken away, but he did not become the loser. He got the darshan of the Lord. The Lord situated him in a place where he was happy, and you'll read it in the chapter 22. What happens to Bali Maharaj ultimately? The Lord says, please live here, stay in this, I forgot the name, this place, the planet where he goes. He says, stay here and live peacefully. And all his needs were taken care of. And he had this amazing story and this amazing experience to, learn from. Let's look at another verse of the Yasyahan Anugranami quotation. This is Canto 8. This is the same canto, chapter 19, text 32. So this is few chapters before. The first installment of my mercy toward a devotee is that I take away all his possessions, especially his material opulences, his money. This is the special favor of the Lord toward a sincere devotee. I mean, this is like Srila Prabhupada's repeating himself over and over in different places in the Srimad Bhagavatam. If a sincere devotee wants Krishna above everything, but at the same time is attached to material possessions, which hinder his advancement in Krishna consciousness. By tactics, the Lord takes away his possessions. Here, Shukracharya says that this dwarf brahmachari would take away everything. Thus, he indicates the Lord will take away all one's material possession and also one's mind. If one delivers his mind to the lotus feet of Krishna, Savai Mana Krishna Padaravinda Yo, one can naturally sacrifice everything to satisfy him. So Shukracharya, the guru of Bali Maharaj, told Bali Maharaj, warned Bali Maharaj that do not give him anything. Do not surrender anything to him. He will take away everything and you will become the loser. He actually calls him like some name. I forgot what it was, but he's like, you ultimate, like, he was essentially saying you're going to be a loser. If one delivers his mind to the lotus feet of Krishna, then one can naturally sacrifice everything to satisfy him. This is an amazing point. Not that just we should surrender ourselves, our activities to Krishna, but we should surrender our minds to Krishna. And what does that mean? This verse, Savai Mana Krishna Padaravinda. This is like Ambarish Maharaj. Ambarish Maharaj surrendered all different things, but he also surrendered his mind to Krishna. Meaning, we have to control the mind and engage it in Krishna conscious activities. That means associating with those things that are going to elevate our mind and not degrade our mind. There's so many things, there's so many distractions that our mind can be engaged in. That is our free will. We are able to put our mind to different things. And surrendering the mind means that we surrender the mind to things that are going to elevate it. Krishna conscious engagements for the mind, whether that's chanting the holy name of the Lord, reading the sacred texts, associating with devotees, worshiping the deity. These are all very potent things for engaging the mind and purifying the mind. And how can we control the mind? Arjuna asks, the mind is so difficult to be controlled. It's like controlling the wind. You can't control the wind. What does Krishna say to him? How does one control the mind? By practice and by detachment. Practice and detachment. Prayasa, practice and detachment. So by practice means we practice Krishna consciousness. We practice sadhana bhakti. Detachment, detaching ourselves from the mind. We are not the mind. When I figured that out, when I realized that, this was such a huge turning point for me personally. When you realize that you are not the mind, the mind can, like, you were like, where did that come from? You think something so horrible, or you think something so like just so out of your own like out of your own what's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, it's just like such a surprise to someone, or surprise to you, that your mind, that you would think this. But actually, with detachment, it's that you're not thinking you're the mind. The mind is something else. Like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, you'd beat the mind in the morning with 100 times with a shoe and 100 times with a stick in the evening. And what does that mean? Beating the mind with activities that will elevate it. So the point is, when one delivers his mind to Krishna, then we can sacrifice everything. So then we control the mind, then sacrificing things for the Lord is easy. Okay, I will sacrifice my time for Krishna. Okay, I will sacrifice my activities for Krishna. These are things become easy when the mind is controlled, when the mind has given in per se. We don't want to make it like a fight, but when the mind is like, becomes the friend, as sometimes it can be the enemy, sometimes it can be the friend. So the friend mean when the mind is a friend, that means, okay, cooperation with ourself, with the soul. Let's look at another verse where it's quoted. This is the next chapter, the 22nd chapter of what we're reading of the 8th canto. It's quoted like 3 times. It's saying the same thing. Okay, let's look at okay, this is the Govardhan Hill pastime. This canto 10. This purport is by the disciples of Srila Prabhupada, but it's a very wonderful purport. Mana, or false prestige, is certainly an anxiety-ridden burden for the conditioned soul. A falsely proud person is not truly peaceful or satisfied because his understanding of himself is false and inflated. When a servant of Lord becomes asat or irreligious, the Lord saves him by impiety, by breaking the false prestige that has led him to be offensive or sinful. As stated by the Lord, Yasyaham anugarnami harishe tadanam shanai. I give my blessings to a person by taking away his so-called opulence. So this is talking about Lord Indra. Lord Indra's false prestige was that he was thinking, why aren't these residents of Vrindavan serving me? Why are they listening to this little boy Krishna, and they are not going to serve me? They're going to serve. They're going to worship this hill, and therefore he sent down his Samvartika clouds, and we know the whole story of the Govardhan Hill pastime. So Krishna broke Indra's false prestige to put him on the right path. This is also in a sense, taking away something. His so-called opulence, the opulence of his false prestige, that he thought he was something that he wasn't. So this is another example. Anyway, we get the point. Krishna takes away, and this is his mercy. Bali Maharaj was not agitated by this, and he accepted it fully. Now, Bali Maharaj is a Mahajan. Balir Vayasaki Vayam. He is one of the Mahajans. So Mahajano Yenagatasa Panta. We have to follow, we have to strive to be in this kind of mentality of the Mahajans. So I would say in conclusion, the takeaway here is that we should always try to meditate on what is the qualities of those Mahajans. And Prabhupada is describing it here, the Stita Pragya. We try to meditate and try to always read about and kind of like think and inculcate kind of these qualities of the Stita Pragya. How can we move towards becoming like that? So what are those things? How does that person speak? How does that person sit? How does that person talk? How does he respond to different situations? How does he not respond to these different situations? Are his senses controlled? So if we are constantly meditating on what our goal is, then this is very beneficial for reaching that goal. If we don't know what our goal is, then how can we reach it, right? So that's the takeaway. Try to meditate on these qualities of the Mahajans, such as Bali Maharaj, who's also Mahajan, and try to move towards that. So we have a few minutes left. I know there's probably a lot of questions and discussion that can happen. So thank you very much for giving me an opportunity again for speaking here. And I'll open it up for any questions or comments. Hare Krishna.